Hello everyone and welcome to the first episode of my Skyrim modding tutorial series. Over the years on my channel, many of you viewers have wanted me to release a series of modding tutorial videos to show you guys how to get your Skyrim looking like mine. Now, that is an important distinction, looking. Many of you might not want to go the full distance with the full, last time I looked, 461 mods that I have installed for my upcoming new and improved Skyrim Modded to Hell 4K playthrough. But I will tell you guys when to stop if you just kind of want it to look good and still have a safe and stable experience. And that's an important point to bring up, is that this should be considered an alpha tutorial, because this is kind of new territory with the new script extender for Skyrim Special Edition still being in alpha testing, and a lot of these mods kind of still being refined for the Special Edition version of the game. It should go without saying that with 460 mods installed, this is a very alpha experience, and your mileage may vary. You may have a very unstable experience. Now, that being said, we will go through a great deal of effort to get it as stable as we possibly can, and I will be walking you guys through all of that. But for those of you who just want a very stable experience and just want it to look better, I will kind of at some point in this series tell you guys, okay, this is probably a good time for you guys to walk away if you still want an extremely stable Skyrim experience. That being said, I am going to go through the full install, the full procedure that I do myself for you guys, so you guys will basically be playing with the exact same mods that I do. In fact, I've gone ahead and uninstalled everything in my mod organizer to start fresh so that I can do this proper with you guys from the ground up. So whatever I end up with after this tutorial series is exactly what I'll be playing with in my new Skyrim Modded to Hell series. Now, there are several caveats. The first that I mentioned is, of course, this is likely to be an unstable experience. Again, we will try to avoid that. We will go to great lengths to avoid that, but some of you might not want that. 2, this tutorial series is going to contain some advanced modding concepts. Now, I will walk you through step by step, but I suggest you familiarize yourself with many of the tools, and if you do feel extremely uncomfortable doing this, you might want to avoid this particular tutorial series. The other caveat is it's always best to start with a completely fresh install. So if you've modded your game at all, I would highly recommend, now you can do whatever you want obviously, but I would strongly suggest that you uninstall any mods you've installed, go into my documents and delete your Skyrim INIs, your anything that might be installed in there if you've got previous installs, because it's always best to start fresh. Okay, so I am going to start from the ground up, from ground zero, assuming you haven't even installed Skyrim yet. So another caveat is that we are going to be working with the Skyrim Special Edition version. And if you are using old Skyrim, or Old Rim as it's sometimes called, or Skyrim Legendary Edition, a lot of this stuff won't work for you, because a lot of these mods are designed to work with Skyrim Special Edition, and then some of the mods for old Skyrim, or Old Rim as it's sometimes called, we are going to actually be porting over to Skyrim Special Edition to be compatible with Skyrim Special Edition. So I would also say, if you're not using the Special Edition, do not attempt this tutorial series. That is the other caveat. All right, all of that out of the way, we can begin. And this first video is just going to cover the tools and prerequisites, basically. Now, that being said, this is going to be a potentially lengthy and very exhaustive modding tutorial series now, because I am, like I said, going through the full process, not just as some tutorials out there just focus on graphics. This is going to be a pretty exhaustive tutorial that's not just going to focus on graphics. This is going to be basically getting your game to the point that mine is for the Modded to Hell series, and there are going to be some pretty advanced modding concepts, so strap yourselves in and get ready for not just a potentially lengthy series, but also for me to potentially be rambling incoherently as I try to gather my thoughts. what to do next. So the first thing obviously is to install Elder Scrolls Skyrim Special Edition. Now I want to say that you do not want to install this in your program files directory that Skyrim tries to install in. If you've got your Steam library in program files, I would suggest creating a new Steam library for Skyrim and installing it elsewhere. It is recommended amongst almost everyone in the modding community that you install Skyrim in just about anywhere other than your program files directory, or you might potentially experience problems down the line. Now I've got it installed in an internal SSD drive. That SSD drive, that's redundant, right? Because it's like saying solid state drive. But at any rate, I've got it installed on an internal SSD. I would recommend just install it anywhere other than the program files directory. Okay, so the very first thing you're going to want to do is launch Skyrim for the first time so that Skyrim can detect your computer's hardware and set your video settings accordingly. So we're going to go ahead and launch the Special Edition. Skyrim Special Edition will now detect your video hardware and set video options accordingly. Okay. Video settings have been set for ultra quality. Now yours might be different. It doesn't matter. I'm going to show you what to do next. And I didn't mean to do that. Let's get out of there. Okay. So we're going to go into options, and this is automatically set to TAA when you go in here, or it might be different for you depending on your video hardware. Now, this is all likely to be different for you, but I just want to cover a couple of key important things. You don't want TAA because we're going to be installing an EMB later on in this series that doesn't really work well with this type of anti-aliasing, like especially if you're using the depth of field options of this EMB we're going to be installing later. It can tend to look kind of bad with TAA, with blurring in the background and sort of pixelated movement of the objects, distant objects while you're moving around. So we're going to want FXAA. And you're going to want to deselect screen space ambient occlusion because the EMB we're going to be installing later has its own built in. Now it also has its own anti-aliasing, but from the mod author's page, he says you can use FXAA with his EMB's built-in anti-aliasing and it's fine. So now this one you can also use with his EMB. However, it comes with its own, and I've tried using both at once. And it tends to just be too much SSAO. It tends to look too dark around the grass areas, too much shading on things if you try to use both. So I would just highly recommend just disabling the standard Elder Scrolls screen space ambient occlusion, because the EMB we're going to be installing has its own. Now everything else you can just leave as it is. We will be tweaking things in the Skyrim INI and Skyrim Preferences INI later anyways. Just leave this to however Skyrim set it for your hardware, but make sure you have this either on off or on FXAA and the screen space ambient occlusion deselected, and then you can get out of here. Okay, now we're going to go into our Nvidia settings, and we're going to change a few things as recommended by the author of the EMB reshade that we're going to be installing later. And I'm going to make sure Elder Scrolls Skyrim Special Edition is selected. Now this is for Nvidia users. If you're using AMD or something, I don't really know exactly how to tweak these things, so I don't really know what to tell you, unfortunately. But if you're using Nvidia, I'm going to be able to tell you what to do. Unfortunately, I have to kind of work with what I know and with what I have. So what you're going to want to do, now this is recommended. It's not absolutely necessary, but it's recommended on the author of the EMB we're going to be installing later has recommended these settings for anti-aliasing FXAA on, and under your manage 3D settings, program settings, your anti-aliasing mode, enhance the application setting, your anti-aliasing setting at 4K. Actually, I believe he said anywhere from 2K to 8K, but he prefers, after testing them, 4K, so I just set it to that. Your texture filtering, anisotropic sample optimization off, texture filtering negative LOD bias on clamp, texture filtering quality on high quality, texture filtering trilinear optimization on, and everything else I believe you leave as it's already set. Yes, everything else has been untouched. So now you can get out of that. Now you're going to want to go to the Skyrim Special Edition Nexus and find Mod Organizer 2. Look for that and install it. And you can pretty much install it anywhere. It doesn't really matter. The main thing is to have Mod Organizer find your Skyrim directory wherever you've decided to install that. It doesn't matter too much where you have Mod Organizer installed, although when you set up Mod Organizer, I would recommend setting up your mods folder, whatever directory you're going to have your mods installed in a place where you have quite a bit of storage space. Now, we are going to be using Mod Organizer extensively, so I would recommend you familiarize yourself with this program, although I will be going step by step and give you at least, probably by the time you're done with this series, you'll have at least a basic understanding of how to use Mod Organizer just by following these steps, even if you do nothing else. So here is Mod Organizer. Now, I actually like to go into settings, and under style, you have a few different options for the look of the GUI of the Mod Organizer. And this is the standard white version. There's another white version called Fusion that just changes the look of it a little bit. And then there are a couple of dark versions. I prefer the dark versions because it's just a little easier on the eyes, especially if you're working in here often. So, and I actually like the Dracula version. The text and buttons just all seem to fit a little bit better with my resolution in the Dracula version. So if you want your Mod Organizer to look exactly as mine does, that is how you do that. So now yours should look like mine. And there are a few things that I'm kind of just going to go over really quickly here, just so you guys know. So when you install a mod, it will appear over here on the left pane. And then on the right pane is your actual load order. So for example, the left side, think of it more like packages, like such and such mod author's amazing armors package. It will be like over here, and then over here will be the individual ESP files if that particular mod has any. So this is your actual load order, and this is like more like the mod packages you have installed on the left pane over here. Now you have separate profiles. So one great thing about Mod Organizer is it installs sort of a virtual install of Skyrim that doesn't actually touch your Skyrim directory. And so any of you who have done any manual modding, you know that it's all about dragging and dropping files from the mod into the data folder in the Skyrim directory and dragging things into the meshes folder and the textures folder. Mod Organizer works on a virtual install that doesn't actually touch those folders, so it doesn't mess with your Skyrim install folder. It creates its own virtual install that you can basically change and redo and uninstall things without messing anything up. The profile works the same way, so you can have separate profiles for separate mod installations. So there is your profile, and you can actually click Manage to add a new profile, or if you've got a fairly stable mod list running on one profile and you want to create a new one based off of that, you can copy and create a new one and rename it. But here are your profiles within Mod Organizer. And over here under Tools, if you hover above this button right here that looks like puzzle pieces and says Tools, if you click that, this is your INI editor. And just like I was saying with Mod Organizer not actually messing with your root Skyrim install folder, this is the same way. It's like virtual Skyrim preferences and Skyrim INI that you can just change at will without actually messing anything up. So you can mess with things in here and save it and try it, and then you can always go back in and undo it or replace it with your standard Skyrim INI and prefs INI. Although I would recommend not messing with this just yet if you're not familiar with doing so, although we will be doing that at a later point. A lot of you might be familiar with tools like SSEEdit, or it used to be called TES5 edit, Xedit sometimes it's called. It's basically a tool that you can edit individual mod files. It's a very powerful tool. You can merge mod files into one ESP. You can create a merged patch from within SSEEdit, which we will be doing. Then there are also any patchers that you run for things like Finis, which is For's New Idols in Skyrim, or Asis, or Wrye Bash. they will all be run from within Mod Organizer from now on. If you try to run them outside of Mod Organizer, it won't detect your virtual Skyrim install, so it will only find the things that are actually in your root Skyrim install folder. So for example, if I wanted to go in here and create a merged patch in SSEEdit and I try to load it from without Skyrim Mod Organizer, it will only detect these files because these are the only things that are actually going to be in our root Skyrim directory. So you have to run those things from within Mod Organizer from here on out so that it can detect your virtual install and all of the mods that you have there. And any program like that will be selected right here and then run with this button right next, directly to the right of it, that says run in large letters and has a little orange play button. So that is where you will find those. And we will get into this later, but you can edit it all right here to add new things. And I will show you all how to do that. So that's what that is. Then here you've got sort, which is where if you have loot installed, which you will need installed, and we'll go over that in a moment, you can click this button to sort, automatically sort your load order based on the most recent information on sort of best load order practices and master lists. There's a big master list that's updated constantly, and loot uses that master list to sort your load order. Here is your archives where certain BSAs are selected, and we might get into that later because I'm going to explain how when you merge mods and many mods into one, you want to make sure the BSAs are still in your new merged patch. So that you're not missing textures or meshes or items of some kind. So here's your downloads. Anything you download from the Skyrim Special Edition Nexus will show up here, and you'll be using that pretty extensively in this series. Up here at the top left, next to the little, just directly to the right of the little Mod Organizer icon, is a little, what looks like a disk, like a CD-ROM disk or something. And that's how you install a mod from an archive. So there are two ways to install a mod in Mod Organizer. You can download it directly from the Nexus and just double click it from within your downloads pane, and then it will install and appear here in the left pane. Or you can click install a new mod from an archive, .zip, .rar, 7-zip. I'm pretty sure the only ones I ever end up using are .zip and 7z. Those are the common ones. Anyways, so you can install a mod from an archive there, and we will be doing some of that. Okay, so now the next thing, once you've got Skyrim Mod Organizer installed, now for me it automatically detected my Skyrim install folder. You will probably have to do that on your own, but just make sure that when you install this, it's directed to your Skyrim Special Edition. And if you have the Standard Edition or the Legendary Edition, make sure it's not being directed to that executable and that it is finding your Special Edition instead. Okay, now the next thing we're going to want to get is loot, load order optimization tool. And so I'm going to go ahead and just download this, manual download. And we're going to also you're going to want to search the Skyrim Special Edition Nexus. And anytime you're installing these mods from the Nexus, just make sure that after all games here it says Skyrim Special Edition and that you're not installing old RIM mods by mistake. So find SSEEdit and download it as well. Now you're going to want to find Wrye Bash and download it as well. Now, some of the mods we are going to be installing require the new Skyrim script extender, so you're going to want to go to skse.silverlock.org and install, this is very important, the Special Edition build, not the current build, but go under the Special Edition build and click on the 7z archive and download that as well. All right, now after you've downloaded loot and SSEEdit, and the Skyrim Script Extender 64-bit version. Go into your downloads, and we're going, oh, and Wrye Bash. We're going to install these each manually and then direct Mod Organizer to their installs, and then from then on we will be running those things from within Mod Organizer. Remember when I just spoke of running certain patchers and programs from within Mod Organizer so that those programs may detect your sort of virtual install of Skyrim? Well, this is to what I was referring. So we're going to actually be all of those things you just downloaded, with the exception of the Skyrim Script Extender. We will be running from within Mod Organizer right here under this little drop down. So, but for now, we're going to install these each manually. So first of all, unzip your Skyrim Script Extender 64 and open that up. This is one of the only things that you're going to have to actually install manually into your Skyrim install folder. So you're going to want to open up the directory where your Skyrim Special Edition executables are located. This is very important. Do not go into your data folder and drop them here. Go into the root folder. If you see the Skyrim SE and Skyrim SE Launcher applications, you're in the right place. You're going to want to take the DLLs and the applications, of which there is only one, the SKSE loader. And you're going to want to drag and drop those into your Skyrim root install folder where you see the Skyrim executables. Then you're going to want to take the data and merge it with your data folder. You can just drag and drop the whole data folder into your Skyrim install and it'll automatically merge it. If you want to just drag and drop manually, you can do that as well, but it's easier to just merge the two data folders. And if you get lost, there is a README right here that tells you what to do as well. The SRC folder you can ignore. It's mostly for, I think, programmers or mod authors, so you can ignore that one. Now, we're going to want to go ahead and install Loot. So I'm going to unzip this. And I'm going to run this installer and install Loot. Now I'm going to install Loot on an internal hard drive outside of the C directory. I've created a folder here, modding tools and programs, and I'm going to put all of these in there just to keep things organized. Now it doesn't really matter as long as you have Mod Organizer directed to the right place, directed to this executable after you've installed it. So just remember where you've installed it to, because you're going to have to, in just a moment from now, direct Mod Organizer to this exe that's about to be installed. So just remember where you've installed this to, wherever that might be. For me personally, I've created a folder so that I can keep things organized and just keep all of my modding tools and programs in one folder. So we're going to install this. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and let's go ahead and launch Loot for the first time. Okay, now you'll notice here it's detected your root folder and it's gone ahead and sorted what we have in there. Now from here on out, we'll be launching this from within Mod Organizer, so it will be detecting our virtual Skyrim install and all of the mods that we have installed through Mod Organizer. But since I've run this outside of Mod Organizer for the first time, it is only detecting, which right now we don't have anything else installed, but later we will, and it's only going to detect what is in that root Skyrim folder. And if you'll notice here, this is a very, very handy tool, because if you'll notice here, it's telling us that there are basically dirty mods here. 230 ITM, which refers to identical to master records, and 91 deleted references. Now we are going to go in and clean all of these files in just a moment, but I just want you to take note that when you run Loot, whether from within Mod Organizer or outside of it, either way, it will give you these warnings that are extremely helpful. Now, when you use Loot, I'll go ahead and tell you this now. This is how you'll sort your plugins based on the latest master list information. And then after you sort, we'll go ahead and do that now. It'll ask you to apply. At that time it didn't, so I'm not sure, but usually an apply button will come up here and you'll hit apply to apply the sorted load order. So we have just sorted our load order with Loot. Now there's not many to sort so far, so it's a very quick affair to do so. And you also want to make sure when you are running loot that it is detecting your Skyrim TESV Skyrim Special Edition, and that you're not sorting the mods in your old one or in Oblivion. If you have any of this other stuff installed, just make sure that it says TESV Skyrim Special Edition up here when you run it, whether running it from within Mod Organizer or without. Just make sure that's set appropriately. All right, now I'm going back to my downloads, and now we're going to install SSEEdit. So I'm going to extract that. All right. Now I'm actually going to, yes, SSEEdit doesn't actually have an installer. Once you've extracted it, that's it. It just runs from within that folder. So I'm actually going to drag and drop SSEEdit into the modding tools and programs area. And we'll go ahead and run this for the first time. And just make sure when you open SSEEdit that it has right up here where it says what version it's using, where it says your Steam path, but make sure that it is opening your Skyrim Special Edition and that is in the correct place, and that it is not trying to open your old Skyrim Legendary Edition or whatever else you might have. And this will find all of your ESPs you have installed in the data folder. Now, when we start running this from within Mod Organizer, it will detect everything that we've installed from there. Now we're going to install Wrye Bash. Okay, now this will give you a lot of different options for the install location because it will automatically detect your Skyrim, Fallout, any other games that you have for which you can run Wrye Bash. So you can install it for everything now if you want. For me, for now, I'm only going to install it for Skyrim Special Edition. Now, just let Wrye Bash install where it wants to install because it's going to want to install into your Skyrim Special Edition root folder. And so if it's detected that appropriately, just let it install there. And so you will find Wrye Bash in kind of an odd place, which will be your Skyrim Special Edition root folder, and then under a folder called Mopey. And you'll find the executable here. And you will need to know that in a moment when we link that to Mod Organizer, which we're going to do now. So let's go back into Mod Organizer. And here in this dropdown, we're going to link certain executables to Mod Organizer now. Okay, so from this dropdown, which I've gone ahead and cleaned up so it'll look a little bit more like you guys should look, I'm going to click Edit, and we're going to add some executables now. So what you're going to do is go to Binary and click this little 3-dot button right here, and you're going to find one of your executables to link to Mod Organizer. Now, as I've told you before, I went ahead and to keep things easy and clean and organized, have put everything in modding tools and programs. So first I'm going to go into SSEEdit, and we're going to take this executable, the application SSEEdit, and we're going to open that. And we're going to just call this SSEEdit. And it doesn't really matter what you title this so long as you remember what executable it will be opening when you run it. Now start in, just select the folder again within which that executable is located. That's where I select to start in. And then you're just going to hit add, and you'll notice in your executables list here, it has now added SSEEdit, and you can title it anything you want again, but so there's that one. Now we're going to add another one. We're going to go ahead and add and go back to whatever folder you've installed all of these into, and we're going to add loot, which is your sorting application that sorts your load order. And we're going to actually call this none other than loot. And start in the loot folder. And now we're going to add Wrye Bash, which, as you might remember, is installed in your Skyrim directory under Mopey. So you're going to go Steam Library, Steam Apps, Common, Skyrim Special Edition, Mopey, and then open link to the Wrye Bash executable. This little whatever this swivelly little S hook thing is, this icon, and hit open. And we're going to call this one Wrye Bash. And again, on the start in thing, we're just going to select the Mopey folder. So we've got those three things in there now. And let's just go ahead and close this. Now, there will be more we will be adding to this, because any patchers that you add to the game, any mods that require patchers, for instance, Asus or For's New Idols in Skyrim, there are others that I can't remember off the top of my head. Anything that requires, any mod that requires a patcher, will go here and you'll run that patcher from within this drop down menu. We will be adding more to this, but those will come later when we install the mods that require them. So that is it for now on that. Okay guys, there is one more prerequisite program that we're going to need, and that is the creation kit. So you're going to go to Bethesda.net and go to the dashboard, log in or create an account if you don't have one, and click the launcher tab at the top and download the Bethesda launcher. Now run the Bethesda.net launcher _setup. Now I've already installed the launcher, but I'm just going to go ahead and reinstall it for you guys since I'm trying to do all this fresh. And it's just a quick and easy affair. Now run the launcher. Okay, so we've run the launcher and it's going to download, I guess, an update here. You'll probably have an update. Downloading Bethesda.net updater, finalizing. And here is the Bethesda.net launcher, and you're going to want to sign in here. Okay, now after you've logged in, click on the left side here, you'll see a little tab that says Creation Kit. There's also a creation kit for Fallout 4. We want the creation kit Skyrim. And click Install. Click I have read and accept the above agreement. Location to install. Just make sure this is directed to your appropriate Skyrim Special Edition install location. Okay, install complete. Once it's complete, go ahead and launch the Skyrim creation kit for the first time. And it's going to ask you if you want to unpack the scripts.zip archive for the first time. Just click yes. Now the reason we're installing the creation kit is we are going to need to get in there and change some mods that were ported over from old RIM to the new Skyrim Special Edition. We're going to want to resave certain ESP files into the new format to make them more compatible with Skyrim Special Edition. And I'm going to be showing you guys how to do that. All right, now all of those files have unpacked and the creation kit has opened. Now it will lag a bit when you open it, and it does that every time, so don't be alarmed if it takes a second. Just let it do its thing. Now we're not actually going to do anything here for now. But what I did want to do is go ahead and unzip those script files and install it for the first time and run it for the first time, because now we're going to go into Mod Organizer and add it to our executables list. Because just like everything else, we want it to see a virtual install and the mods therein, rather than what's actually in your Skyrim install directory. So we're gonna go to, in my case, my hard drive named Little Bitch, and we're going to go and find into your Steam Apps Common Skyrim Special Edition, wherever you have that installed, find that same location as your Skyrim SE and SE launcher executables, find the new Creation Kit executable and open it. And we can just call this Creation Kit. And again, the start in folder. Okay, so that is all of the basics and the prerequisites done. So in the next video, we will start with the actual fun part and begin installing mods step by step. So that's it for this video, guys. And what should we call this tutorial series? Because, you know, everyone who has wanted to see me do this has been a fan of the Modded to Hell series, and so we could call it the MTH system, the MTH guide, although that it's not really a good sounding acronym like MTH guide. We could call it the massively modded manual, so it could be the guide. Welcome back to the guide, guys. All right, anyways, that's it for now. In the next video, I'll show you how to actually begin installing mods and how to use Mod Organizer, how to use this dang old thing. So I kind of showed you where some stuff is. Now we're going to actually start utilizing all of that in the next video. So thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this, please give it a like, and remember to comment, subscribe, start a flame war, send me hate messages, whatever you want to do. And for those of you that are like coming back to my channel after a long time away, or who are new to my channel, make sure you go into my channel and click the little bell icon that gives you notifications when I upload something new, because I believe that YouTube made some changes quite a while back, and now a lot of my subscribers don't get any sort of notification or know when I've uploaded a video and have no idea. I'll upload stuff and sometimes people will stumble in and find it and go, oh my gosh, I had no idea you were uploading things this whole time. So please make sure you go into my account, or my channel, and click that little bell icon. And that's it for now, guys. I will see you in the next video, in which we will actually begin to install some mods. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Bye.